The video that you see next to me is a mine clearing line charge, also known as a MICLIC. Now, as we all know, Ukraine is in the middle of their counteroffensive. And the good thing about this piece of equipment right here, the mine clearing line charge, it's essentially used to clear lanes for personnel, for tracked vehicles. It can do a lot of good things, but there can also be a lot of bad with the MICLIC. And in this video, I want to talk about some of the negatives that come with this extremely powerful piece of equipment. Now, I was a former combat engineer, and I'm not going to give away all of the secrets of the MICLIC, but I think there's a few things we need to realize if Ukraine wants to be successful in using MICLICs, especially during their counteroffensive. Okay, first off, I want to say this. I am not here critiquing Ukraine on their counteroffensive operations. I'm here to talk about how the MICLIC can be used during their counteroffensive operations, but some of the bad that can happen when using the MICLIC, because this is a very powerful piece of equipment. It's also a very simple piece of equipment, but if something goes wrong, it's really bad for everyone. Okay, so the basics of the MICLIC. You are essentially shooting this line and you're trying to demine an area or to de-booby trap an area. This is not a safe operation. It's typically done in an open battlefield. I've seen videos where MICLICs are used like in tree lines and stuff. Very rare, doesn't always happen, but it's going to be in a combat space like you see here. You can also de-trench areas, and typically this will always be done for mainly tracked vehicles. Again, it can be used for footpaths or foot soldiers, but it's usually for mechanized warfare use. And the MICLIC really is that simple, especially when you're looking right at it up in its face. You have a rocket that'll launch the line, and you have pretty much the container that holds all the demolition that's going to blow in place. And then you also just have this metal frame that's going to guide the rocket. Essentially, again, all you're trying to do is shoot that rocket in a straight line or in the designated area where you want to clear your lane. Hey everyone, real quick, I'm not sponsored by anyone but you. Make sure you go purchase yourself a Tactical Scooter Battalion patch. Whenever you buy one of these patches, you support the channel, and I put the money right back into designing more funny patches for all of you. So go check out the Tactical Scooter Battalion patch. It means a lot. These things are affordable, they're high quality, they're funny. You're gonna love yours. Go purchase it. Link in the bio, link in the comments. Now, the first negative I want to say about the MICLIC package is how exposed you are as a combat engineer or as a troop movement. It's not hard to spot a MICLIC. I mean, it's a really irregular piece of gear. You have a rocket sticking up. And then also when you want to go place your MICLIC or go do your combat operation, you are very, very exposed. And when you launch that MICLIC, everyone knows where you are and everyone is looking at you. That's why the job of a combat engineer, whether in the United States or for Ukrainians, it is not a safe job. It's a very difficult job, but it's very important. And of course, once this thing launches, that's why I said everyone knows where you are, because it's so loud. And when that rocket, initially takes off, you'll see a huge puff of smoke. So again, everybody can see you. And especially in this type of combat environment with Ukraine and Russia, there are so many drones up in the air. By the time you actually get your MICLIC in place to try clearing your lane, you're most likely already going to be spotted. So the next sequence after your rocket goes off is the unraveling of your demolitions. Now, these actually come already pre-packed unless you're practicing with them, which these things really suck when you have to repack them. But again, this is just another component of the MICLIC. The MICLIC really only has several components: the rocket, the demolition, and then the rope that holds everything together. Now, I don't want to get into too many details on what the actual capabilities are of the demolition package, like how far is the clearance, how wide is the clearance. Just understand this: it gets the job done, and it's been combat proven time and time again. But that doesn't necessarily mean that this package is necessarily that reliable. Now, I want you to notice something. You'll see right here, that's an actual piece of rope that's supposed to hold everything in place to the MICLIC frame. And you'll see how much kick and tug right there is to the MICLIC. There's a lot of pressure and force on this point right here. Now, one time we were training as combat engineers and we were given 7 MICLICs. Out of the 7 MICLICs, 5 of them, the rope failed. And so what worries me is that if Ukraine is going to heavily rely on these MICLICs to hopefully clear lanes, and I'm not saying they are, I haven't really seen any evidence of that, I'll just never forget from my experience, which experiences may vary. This rope right here, your whole life is depending on that rope. Because if that rope doesn't hold in place, you may have cleared the lane, but 200 feet in front of the cleared lane has not been cleared. So you've just gone out there and exposed yourself to who knows what Russia's waiting for them with. And so again, that's why I said this package is very powerful, and I question how reliable it is. It definitely gets the job done 100% of the time if everything works correctly, but you're relying on this little piece of twine to hopefully hold back all of that demolition and the rocket flying out of the MICLIC package. What happens if the MICLIC doesn't go off and the MICLIC is just shooting there? Well, there's a couple of sequences you can do. You can either try to bip it, which is called blowing it in place, where somebody has to run out there and go and take it out. And I think that's called like a sapper run or a hero's run, where somebody just has to sprint out there and go put a charge on it and run back, and hopefully you don't get hurt. Hopefully that doesn't happen. The next thing you can do is try to take it out with a high-powered munitions and try to initiate the MICLIC with the munition, whether that's a tank round or whatever. That's the next thing you can do. But again, a lot of things can go wrong with the MICLIC because these packages are not necessarily brand new. MICLICs have been around since Desert Storm. And some of the packages that we even use as US soldiers, they're almost 30 years old. That's why our rope kept failing when we were doing that training exercise. So I just want you to know, if the kaboom doesn't go off, someone has to make it go off, because then you just have a mine-clearing line charge line in the middle of a battlefield, and it can be used against you. So you need to be very careful and make sure, like, hey, once we're doing this mission and we launch it, it's going off one way or another. And whether that's somebody runs out to the MICLIC and takes it out, or you use a tank to take it out, or use a drone to take it out, someone's got to take it out. Now, something else I want to point out about the mine clearing line charge, it's a line charge, not a circle charge, as you can see from this battle space where they are practicing. And so what that means is when you initially go through your breach, that means you have to go and funnel in through a straight line. So Russia could just sit back and say, you know what, we're going to watch them perform this whole operation. And then once we push them through the tunnel or through the mine clearing line charge area where the spread was, you'll be filing straight through, and that sets you up for failure at times. So this needs to be a very fast and effective mission. That's why it almost would be counterintuitive for Ukraine to use the mine clearing line charge, because this is a rapid pace combat space. You don't always want to be filing in a straight line. And as you can see right here, the troop movement standard doctrine is you file straight wherever the line is cleared. You're not going to be in a wedge formation or an echelon right formation, because if you do that and only one person is going through the cleared area, everyone else could be taken out by anti-personnel mine, anti-vehicle mine, stuff like that. So yeah, that's essentially the MICLIC. Again, this is a very powerful, and I would actually put it in the effective category for equipment that Ukraine could use to clear lanes if they are going to try and be successful in this counteroffensive, because this is a mechanized war. And when it comes to mechanized war, you need to have cleared lanes, especially if you are pushing through towards the enemy. Now, again, the failures that I had mentioned, those are common failures that I know have happened to me and other combat engineers when I made this video. And a lot of it is just relying on this rope system to hold everything in place. If that rope system holds in place, most likely 99% of the times the MICLIC is going to go off. That is if you can get the MICLIC into position, because again, you are exposed as a soldier when you are trying to set up the MICLIC. Whether or not you're in a vehicle, whether or not you're in the open, everyone knows you're there. You can see how big the smoke cloud is. Everyone knows what's going on. And regardless, even if the MICLIC does work, just how we had mentioned before, you still have to file through a straight line through what's called like a fatal funnel. And whenever you're filing in a straight line in an open combat space, that sets you up for failure very fast. So again, this all needs to happen really quick. I'm not necessarily hating on the MICLIC. I'm not critiquing Ukraine. I'm just pointing out a piece of equipment that would most likely be used during this counteroffensive, and how Ukraine could run into some issues if the MICLIC does fail. Because a lot of us love to fantasize and create this Hollywood perspective of the mine clearing line charge, but things can go wrong, and I just wanted to point that out. Anyway, my name is T-SPLY. I hope you enjoyed that video. Please leave your comments and opinions down below, and we'll see you later.